a lot of negativity about me not practicing when I first came to Arizona. You know, I don't watch like the Arizona local news and the channels and the sports station, but my grandfather, he's an avid listener to everything and every single one. I think if one of you guys says something bad about me, my grandfather, he's told me. You know, for those people who don't understand football and who just watch, there's a reason that I play football and they watch. Please tell your friends and all you guys on the local stations, you know, if you got anything negative to say about DeAndre Hopkins, I charge to come on shows, but I give a discount to come on the show for those people.
There's just so much there. We got Mike Vick joining the conversation, but Brandon, I got to start with you. We talked about special treatment for talent like Kawhi Leonard, but let's head over to the NFL. Has Nuke earned the right not to practice? Is this the special talent that gets that right as well?
That's an interesting question, and the answer is yes and no. So let me jump into it. Right, 2012, I went for 1,500 yards. 2013, I went for 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns. So that's back-to-back years of being, all-pro, Pro Bowl player, and those were my years in Chicago. So what ended up happening in that moment was I started breaking down. I had a hip surgery. I actually had my third hip surgery. And I'm also at Pro Bowls, and I'm walking around, and I'm running into Megatron, the Steve Smiths of the world, and they're like, well, this is how I manage my body. This is what the team does for me. So you start hearing those things. So basically what I'm saying is there comes a point in a player's life and in their career where they're like, how do I make it to the next season? How do I make it to year 10, year 12, whatever your career goals are? Like, you start thinking about it. And then it starts to wear and tear on the team. And the reason why is because you look around and be like, well, coach gave that guy a vet day, or these guys are being managed this way. How are you going to help me? And it's tough for the wide receiver because it's not all about you. It's about the quarterback. Like, the quarterback, that's the one position on the field where they got to see it in real time. Friday, Fast Friday, what is that? We're in and out. A lot of guys on the field is going through the motions. They're going half speed. But that quarterback position and a wide receiver position, tight end position, we're getting those real reps. They need to see us full speed. And that is the challenge with D-Hop and other professional athletes and other wide receivers. So you think about, Mike, you know, what do I need to do to get to the next week? What do I need to do to get to the next year and try to stay fresh? But the coach is sitting back and thinking about, well, I want a crisp practice. So if you're the Cardinals and you're looking at Andy Isabella out there in D-Hop's spot, and Andy Isabella is lining up wrong and he's dropping the ball, then it makes everybody feel uncomfortable with the game plan. You know that. We're looking for perfect practices, and that is the challenge that D-Hop and a lot of guys face.
I agree with you, Brandon, and on a couple of different points. But I think mainly when you talk about repetition and you talk about the quarterback and the receiver getting the reps and timing and being on the same page, it's so invaluable that it's so hard to explain. It just has to happen. But I was always a big fan of Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin not practicing on Wednesday and Thursday. And those are the days where you know, you try to come out and find the timing, but it's also the days where you run more. And I always felt like, you know, our receivers was like on the track team. Like, they ran a lot, and sometimes they ran routes and didn't get the ball, and you know, every day is just taking more and more tread off the tires when in actuality you really need to be fresh. That's right. I was more so a fan of guys practicing on Friday. And getting out on Friday and getting the timing down. And
I would have loved to play with you.
Coach Reed, oh, man, Coach Reed was
I would have loved to play with you, Mike.
That's how, and it wasn't just me.
I struggled in Chicago.
You know, it was Andy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I struggled in Chicago. Jay Cutler, he wouldn't allow me not to practice. He would come to me and be like, Brandon, you're the rabbit. When you're not out there, the juice isn't there. I was so frustrated in Chicago because I'm coming off my third hip surgery. I go to Jay and I go to all the coaches, and I'm like, guys, can you help me load manage? Like, I need to last. I'm going to go out there and be like D-Hop and go for over 100 yards and maybe go for a touchdown or two, but I need to make it through. And Jay was like, No, you need to be out there Wednesday and Thursday. And that is a huge problem for some people.
Brandon,
he did it backwards.
which is why it's a very good thing Jake Cutler once upon a time spotted you those 40 racks, or else you guys shouldn't be friends anymore. Because it might have shortened your career. Well, 60, pardon me. Because the reality is, that's a Jake Cutler problem, not a Brandon Marshall problem. And here's DeAndre Hopkins' resume. Since he came into the league, he has been the most durable #1 receiver in football. 126 games eligible, started 124 of them. Well, how productive has he been? Well, first team All-Pro, first team All-Pro, first team All-Pro, each of the last 3 years, and this year leads the NFL in receiving yards and has 2 singular catches that won football games that only he could make. If he wants to practice every day, fine. If he wants to never practice, fine. If he wants to practice only every other Thursday and do it naked, whatever works, because he is producing when it matters. Like, it is.
But that's the problem, Nick.
But it's working for him. Is it working for the team?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is working for the team.
I think that's the
it is, though.
Nick, I think that's the challenge.
But it is.
Look, this is the challenge, right? This is the challenge, is that everything, spacing and timing is critical for an offense, especially in the passing game. So when D-Hop is not out there, and let's say we have a scissors routes on, the way D-Hop releases is different than Andy Isabella. So that tight end who has to work off of that release from the receiver, he needs to feel that. So it's less about D-Hop and his production, and more so, how does everything work together? Because when you implement the game plan come Monday, Tuesday, and then you start practicing on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're actually trying to see if this stuff is going to work. So by the end of the week, what we're doing is we're taking out all those plays. This is literally what happens. So the plays that we don't connect on, the coaches and the Mike Vicks of the world, they're sitting back saying, oh, I didn't feel good about this. Well, would you feel good about it if D-Hop was in there and the timing felt better and the guy actually caught the ball, he did his job? So I hear what you're saying, Nick. But it's less about D-Hop's production and more so about how does it help and affect the team, the quarterback, the tight end.
I understand that, but just quickly, and then I'll throw it to you, Wilds. Unless the assumption is DeAndre Hopkins is being lazy, which no one has ever accused him of. He's one of the hardest workers in the league. There is a reason this is the practice schedule he thinks he needs. So what is the ideal practice every day and be available for every game and be the most productive receiver in football? Sure. But it is an unknown, Wilds. If he practiced every day, would those connections be slightly crisper? Maybe. And instead of having missed 2 games in his entire career, maybe he had missed 22. And then what are we talking about? He is available. Yep. He's the most productive receiver in the league. He's arguably the best receiver in the league. It's working. So I think the criticism of it, Wilds, is unfair.
I'm sorry, Wilds, 1 second, buddy. I'm going to throw it to you really quickly, but I went through this thing. That's why I went back to 2012 and 2013. Like, that was one of the biggest things when the new regime came in and Coach Fox came in. We talked about it. And I said, well, there was a discussion at the beginning of the year saying that they were going to help me manage this thing. It never happened. So I had to take control of my own career. Fast forward, I get traded to the Jets because they just didn't like our conversations around those type of things. I get to the Jets and I got Todd Bowles. What did Todd Bowles do? He gave me those vet days when I needed those vet days. And also, what they did that was really smart is instead of saying, Brandon, take off Wednesday, Thursday, they said, here's the plays that you need. Because Mike is right. If I'm out there as a wide receiver, I can look at my GPS and say, damn, I ran 5 miles today and I caught 2 balls. That wear and tear is brutal on your body. But what they did is said, you don't need to be on that clear route. What you need to be on these certain plays. And then there's also some plays where I may not be getting the ball, but it helps the tight end and the quarterback see it and feel it. So my practice load went from taking 50 plays to 20 plays sometimes and 15. That's what we did later on in my career, and it was very effective. I think that's the solution.
Okay, I absolutely loved this video, Mike. And Pepper, if we can put it up with no sound and just look at DeAndre's body language. I feel like if this was something that Daniel Day-Lewis did, of just like, hey, can you show me very confident? Like, sure. How about this? How about I lean back? Like, it's wonderful. But Mike, I'm going to take it in a different direction because this is not DeAndre's style, but it's the Patriot style, where it's like, man, I'm just doing what the coach is asking me to do, and then dead the whole thing. Because I did love the performance, but a part of me thought, you know what? He doesn't really need to answer this question. He's having a great year. He's like, you know what? That's a question for the coach. I'm just here to win football games. Do you think Kingsbury has a responsibility to sort of step in here?
Yeah, I think so. But what normally happens and what's the norm sometimes is that, you know, a guy like Brandon, who was a great receiver, Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins, you know, it's not even about them. It's not even about them going out, running routes and trying to perfect timing. We can do that like in 15 minutes. You know, run a couple routes out after practice and we can get the timing down. It's more about the younger guys, the younger receivers that's watching.
Go, 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 go.